repeal the ordinances that were previously approved in December of last year on the zoning and the abandonments, and would also initiate the authorization of the mayor to execute 2 contracts to terminate the development agreement and the purchase and sale agreement regarding properties that are associated with the project known as Southbridge 2. And I'll just go through a couple of background slides to give you some context. Next slide, please. I think we all know where the area is. It's about a little bit less than 10 acres on the south side of the canal and west of Scottsdale Road. It was initially segmented into 4 project areas. Next slide, please. This is what the council approved in December. It included a rezoning for approval and approval of the development plan, abandonments, a development agreement, and purchase and sale agreement. A subtle but important distinction to note here is that the action this evening is not rezoning the property. The action is repealing the ordinance that was previously approved, authorizing the rezoning into what the development plan included. But that zoning never took effect because of the referendum, and this action is simply repealing the ordinances. It's not a rezoning action on its own. Next slide, please. The project included a mixed use. I won't go through all of this, but it included a potential hotel, office, retail, and restaurant. Next slide, please. This would essentially keep the zoning that was in place prior to the council's action in place. It'll repeal the prior rezoning approval, and as I said, terminate the development agreement that was approved at that time and the purchase and sale agreement that was approved at that time. Next slide, please. And that concludes the presentation that I have. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. I'll just, I'll go ahead and go down the list of our council members, and I'll start again with Vice Mayor Littlefield. Do you have any questions or comments on this action?
Yes, Mayor, I do. I will not be supporting this resolution this evening. By nullifying the resolution to allow Southbridge 2 to be built, we would also be denying the citizens' right to vote. Their right to vote was earned legally and legitimately and with great effort by gathering the required signatures to put the issue on the ballot. They wanted this vote and they earned the right to have it. Over 17,500 citizens signed the petition from all over the city in only 28 days in order to have this right. It was unheard of and a Herculean type effort. Some of the signature gatherers even went through personal public humiliations, endured lies, innuendos, and character attacks in order to achieve the result. Some even had to appear in court to defend themselves for doing what was their political right. That too was unheard of before in Scottsdale, and to my mind at least, it strikes a new low in our political process. But the real point of this all is there are approximately 175,000 registered voters in Scottsdale. 10% of our voting population signed the petition. Although we can pretty much guess how those people would vote if allowed to vote, we now will never know how the other 90% of the voting population, or 157,500 voters in Scottsdale, would have voted. Their votes will now be denied. I'm sure this will pass tonight, but it has no favors, and it does no favors to the basic political rights of our citizens, those who stand over us, the council, and over the charter officers in the hierarchy of the city government. And it sets a terrible precedent. We are supposed to represent our citizens, not Mr. Unger, not the charter officers, not the developers, not even ourselves. We work for the citizens. By doing this tonight, we undermine the basic premise of our way of government going forward, a check and balance system that holds everyone accountable through a ballot vote. I will not vote to do that. Citizens earned the right to vote, and they should be allowed that vote. Also, I believe it is very well may be illegal to deny this vote under Arizona Constitution, which says if a referendum has at least 100% of the minimum number required by the Constitution, the initiative or referendum shall be placed on the ballot in a manner provided by law. Shall means mandatory, not we will put it on the ballot if it is convenient for us to do so. I saw nothing in the Constitution to say a city council could deny the citizen vote and remove it from the ballot. Looking into the future and why I believe this is a danger to our citizens, I see a very fearful possibility that citizens will no longer think they have the ability to force a vote by referendum or initiative, even after enduring all the work and the personal attacks to earn one. I believe this vote tonight very well could weaken our citizens' willpower to go through the steps necessary to achieve either an initiative or referendum, especially if they see a council can deny their voices and their votes at will by simply a vote on the dais. Again, I will not do that. For those of you listening tonight, if you signed the petition asking for a vote of the people regarding Southbridge 2, you have won a victory of sorts on this particular project, and I am glad you won it. You earned it, and you deserve it. But know that it now comes at a huge price. If council believes it would lose such a public vote in the future, they will be able to deny the citizens' right to a vote by simply pointing to this as a precedent and wiping the entire future mess under the table and pretend it never happened, like they are doing tonight. If this passes this evening, you no longer can be certain you will achieve a vote on an issue, even if you successfully run a referendum to get such a vote. None of the citizens that did not sign the petition have been heard, nor will they be heard now. They are silenced. Who knows? They might have voted yes to allow Southbridge 2, although obviously that is not the predominant opinion of this council. But we will never know. And finally, I wish to address one last point on this, money. This motion tonight is being justified by saying it would cost too much money to put this on the ballot for a citizen vote. We'll save much needed money for getting us back on our feet after this pandemic is over by canceling your vote. And it is true, I do not deny it, a vote will cost taxpayer money to put it on the ballot. It will. Taxpayer money. Money paid by you, the citizens, the taxpayers, to maintain and run the city for your benefit. That includes protecting your rights, and most specifically, your right to vote. If we undermine that right tonight, I believe this will reverberate throughout our community very loudly. The right to vote is something we often do not think about, or we sometimes just take it for granted. We should not. That right should never be preempted by council or anyone else. In fact, it is our duty to protect that right at all costs. That is our primary duty as a council. I was elected to do so. I swore an oath to do so, and to the best of my ability, I will do so. Citizens want this vote. They earned this vote, and I will vote for them to have their vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Next would be Councilwoman Suzanne Clapp.
Mayor, I have a question for the city attorney.
Okay.
If Sherry Scott is there.
I am here. I'm hoping you can hear me this time.
I can.
Yes.
I just want you to give an explanation to us and to the people listening about what is the legal right of the council in this case. Are we doing something illegally?
No. My opinion is that the council does have the ability and the right to repeal the ordinance that has been referred. I understand Vice Mayor Littlefield's position and her reading of the Constitution, and she did read that correctly. But there's there's more than one law in place here. And in fact, we have reviewed this issue and analyzed it in detail. And one of the clearest authorities that I could cite is from an Arizona Attorney General opinion in 1982, where a very similar matter was being reviewed. The Attorney General at that time, in her conclusion, stated, when the subject matter of the referendum has been repealed, any vote on the measure would be without legal effect. Therefore, we think the referred measure should be admitted from the ballot. The same rationale applies also to the preparation of the general election publicity pamphlet. So without going into a lot of detail about the legal analysis, basically it is that when sending a referendum ballot measure to the electorate would be without any legal effect, the council doesn't have an obligation to send it. And they can repeal the ordinance and by doing so, make it a moot point or a moot question. I'm citing you just one authority. There are others. I feel very confident in our legal analysis on this point.
Thank you. So I appreciate the legal opinion, because this has come up time and time again from people about the fact that this has to go to the ballot. But if the developer has come to us and told us that he cannot move forward on this project, he has not even been able to purchase some of the properties that were involved in this project, as well as he's willing to give up his ability to purchase vacant land that was part of this project and separate from the language that was going to be on the ballot. I believe this is an actual win for the people who oppose this project. I know they wanted to go to the ballot, but there is, as the city attorney just said, it's a moot point. There is no ability for the developer to do anything with this project. So the best course of action is for us to repeal the ordinance and the associated resolutions and take back the Rose Garden property and have him go back to the previous zoning that he had on this property, give up all his property rights, and we can move forward, because there is nothing to be decided at the ballot. So that's basically all I have to say on it at this point. I'll let everybody else talk.
Thank you, Councilwoman Clapp. Councilmember Cordy?
I have no questions. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilwoman Millhaven?
Thank you, Mayor. I think that this is a very, very sad day for Scottsdale. This developer has done an amazing job, done more public outreach than any project that I know of in my history, made more, no developer ever made more accommodations, provided more benefits to the community than this developer, and I think it is a shame that a project of this quality is not going to happen in our community. In fact, if anyone has been victim to lies, innuendo, and falsehoods, I believe it was the developer here. And so this makes me very, very sad. Interesting to me, the PAC that collected the signatures was called Committee for Preservation of Old Town. And, I understand that folks collecting signatures said, save our old town. And so I'm frankly quite surprised that the folks who supported the referendum don't see this as a victory. Because not only is this project not happening as was their desire, but this referendum will have an incredibly chilling effect and dampen any future investment in our downtown. So folks who want to see Fifth Avenue and Old Town stay exactly as it is, they will get exactly that. And so I'm so surprised to hear folks say that this is inconsistent with the point of the referendum. because the point of the referendum was to stop the project and stop the development. It was not about, creating a vote and asking the broader community. That was not the way it was sold. And so I typically don't question people's motives, but if the point was not just to stop the project and folks aren't seeing this as a win, then I can only believe that this is a political ploy and a political machination, and it makes me very sad that our community is going to be hurt by it. We're going to face a depression and a recession here. Who knows how bad it's going to be? But certainly it'll be a long time before we see anybody investing in our downtown again, and I think this is very sad. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman Milhaven. Councilman Phillips.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. So I do have a statement. My understanding is that the purpose of a popular referendum is to allow a group of citizens to overrule a legislative body's decision that they disagree with by bringing the legislative vote to a general election where a popular vote can decide the outcome. The idea that the same legislative body that voted for a particular issue, a rezoning in this case, can undermine the referendum process by voting to repeal the vote ahead of the general vote is an affront to our legal system and a trampling of voter rights. This particular referendum was proven legally binding by the court of law, and nowhere in the city or state statute does it allow a governing body to overrule their decision and consequent ballot vote. If that were the case, a popular referendum of this type would call for a repeal of the vote, not a ballot election. There is no such choice in the statutes excepting the recall referendum, which is clearly stated, and I believe that's what our attorney was referring to. That is separate from popular referendums in the statutes. I fully understand the mechanical and cost-prohibitive reasoning behind trying to remove this referendum from the ballot, but by doing so, we'll be in direct violation of AZ statutes, and what I consider even worse is the ethical ramifications of trampling voter rights in this matter. The law is the law, and like it or not, we must adhere to the letter of the law, which in this case is a ballot election in November. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Phillips. Councilwoman Whitehead.
Hi, thank you, Mayor. So I just want to put a few things on the record because I have received a lot of emails and people are telling me how stressed out they are. And I think it's important that everybody know that the motion that's being voted on today is quite different from what appeared on the agenda about a week ago. And the reason for that, I know that I was very involved and possibly other colleagues of mine were involved. The agenda item a week ago was not a complete repeal of what we voted on in December. It repealed, I believe, only 22 ZN 2018. So it removed the zoning aspect, but it still kept the city obligated in a contract to sell the Rose Garden, should the developer have wanted to move forward on that, and other parts of what was approved. So it was a partial repeal of what we voted on in December. And besides that being messy, it also did not fully protect the citizens, and it did not achieve what the people behind the referendum wanted to achieve. So I do want to say that the first person I called when I reviewed the agenda item was the developer himself. And I told him that I absolutely felt that was frankly underhanded. I did not support having a partial vote that then took away the right for the voters to vote without fully accomplishing what it was that they were trying to achieve. So I will give a lot of people credit, including the developer, for allowing the change to this agenda item. And so what we're looking at tonight is an agenda item that repeals everything. So indeed, it accomplishes everything that those behind the referendum wanted to achieve. And so I'm very pleased about that, because either way the vote goes tonight, those who were victorious, both in the referendum signature gathering and in the courts, will achieve the desired outcome, either a vote or the removal of, or the, reversing the vote from December. So I'm very pleased about that, but I also and I'm not talking legal, I'm not going to challenge any of the legal opinions here, but I just couldn't get past the fact that we have these volunteers and these residents that did collect 17,000 signatures, and they it was validated. Then they were challenged in court. They were victorious there, and I just feel very uncomfortable about a city council denying a public vote that they earned legally. And so, like I said, I'm grateful that the developer was willing to work with everybody on staff, and I think this motion, in fact, does achieve what the backers of the referendum wanted to achieve, but I just am not going to be the one who denies a public vote. I firmly believe that residents should always feel empowered and ready to challenge us. So that's my position, and thank you. Oh, I want to add one more thing. What Councilwoman Milhaven said, I am not seeing any freeze in interest in developing in our downtown or anywhere else in Scottsdale. I've had a number of meetings with different developers over the past month, and I think that something went terribly wrong with Southbridge 2, but I don't think that it's in any way indicative of an inability for a developer to succeed here in downtown, and I don't see any loss of enthusiasm, and I'm grateful for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Whitehead. That completes the conversations on this. I would just add to this that I think I think there's a little bit of just a simple conflict between how the Constitution may state that the referendum shall go to the ballot versus a developer or an individual potentially being forced to do something that he either is not able to or has no desire to. Now, it's subject to some potential loss of deposits or other things that may have been engaged as far as he with his partners, he with potential property that he may have purchased, all manner of things that work into his business deal. He's got exposure beyond what he may have spent in the process itself. It's unfortunate because there's a conflict in the way this is being legally described. And I don't know where it is that somehow or other that in order to just affect what the desired result was in the promotion of this referendum, everyone knew exactly it was to reverse this action, and it did accomplish exactly that. To drag, if you might put it this way, Mr. Unger through a torturous routine over the next several months is something that he may not even be in a position financially to withstand even the time frame that we're talking about, where he's still liable for this if we were to refuse to release him from this. I don't know what provisions that the city manager and administration has done in working out the details of the release, but it is at Mr. Unger's request to tell him, no, you're going to have to go through this, irrespective of what further damage it might do to you financially or even mentally. I just think is an unfortunate consequence of a view that somehow or other, for whatever motivations, the public has an absolute right to drive somebody into a position to do something that he may no longer be able to do, or frankly want to do, but he's willing to take the consequences of the loss. And I'm sure there's significant loss in this. So I'm certainly in favor of accepting the repeal of all the functions that are within it. And with that, Unless there are any flags or hands up.
Marilyn?
Yeah.
This is Megan. I just wanted to make you aware, Vice Mayor Littlefield had her hand up. It looks like she's put that down, but I just wanted to bring that to your attention in case.
Okay. All right. All right. Very good. And then with that, I would accept a motion to adopt ordinance number 4449, which is to authorize repealing the ordinance of 4422. Adopt a resolution number 11774, authorizing the repeal of resolution 11575. Adopt resolution 11773, authorizing the repeal of resolution number 11577. Adopt resolution 17775, authorizing the termination of development agreement number 2019-164 COSA1. And adopt resolution number 11776, authorizing termination of purchase and sale agreement number 2019-199 COSA1 with the Scottsdale Canal Project LLC. Do I have that motion?
So moved. This is Cordy.
Yes, Virginia?
Yes, so moved.
All right.
And Mayor, I have a hand raised by Councilwoman Milhaven.
I was going to make the motion, so I'll just second the motion. Thank you very much.
Very good. All right. Thank you. So we do have the motion made by Councilmember Cordy and seconded by Councilwoman Milhaven. So with that, unless there's any further comment, I think
Mayor, I apologize for interrupting. I have a hand raised by Sherry Scott.
Okay, very good.
Pardon my interruption, Mayor. I just want to make sure that the motion was to adopt resolution number 11773 in its entirety, that it included that resolution in its entirety.
Okay, very good. It's added. I might have just added to the language that's indicated in our council agenda. But in any case, very good. Yes, that certainly would be the intention. All right, with that, motions are made and seconded. I think we're ready then for a vote. If I could, please, if I could ask the city clerk to announce each council member for their vote.
Mayor Lane?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Littlefield?
No.
Council members Clapp?
Yes.
Cordy?
Yes.
Milhaven?
Yes.
Phillips?
No.
And Whitehead?
No.
Motion passes 4-3 with Mayor Lane, Councilwoman Clapp, Councilmember Cordy, and Councilwoman Milhaven voting in the affirmative, and Vice Mayor Littlefield, Councilman Phillips, and Councilwoman Whitehead dissenting. Thank you.